Hello, welcome back for another video on Ark Survival Ascended. So a huge update released earlier today, adding many cool new features that many players have been requesting for years. So let's dive right into showcasing 25 plus new features with this update. Let's get straight into it. The Ankylosaurus, Dunkleosteus, and the Doedicurus all now have a harvest-only mode. This can be accessed via their radial menu to select which specific resources you'd like them to harvest for you. Maybe you're on a metal run and tired of dropping all that unwanted stone. Well, you don't have to do that anymore with this new option if you choose to use it. Which leads us on perfectly to number 2, which is a change I've been desperate for so many years. When picked up by the Argentavis, for example, the Ankylosaurus and the Doedicurus will finally no longer stop auto-harvesting once they reach a certain weight limit. They will just keep on swinging and swinging forever. Slot capped or not, so they say. Over encumbered? No problem. Can't stop? Won't stop. This is the best new change for me, and I honestly have no idea why this wasn't a thing all this time anyway. This feature is going to make those long metal runs much more bearable for us solo players. You can now view the durability level of all of your players' armor pieces when viewing the extended HUD. A very nice quality of life change, especially if you're out and about and don't have time to check your inventory. There is now finally an option to toggle auto run in this game, which can be accessed when holding R on PC, square on PlayStation, or X on Xbox, to enable it via the radial menu. I also have no idea how this took the devs so long to add a function like this, but it's great to see.
Jog on.
No more having to give our fingers or thumbs a workout by constantly holding down that sprint button. This feature also works when riding creatures too. Feels amazing, especially when riding a fast creature. You can kind of just go AFK and just hit the attack button, harvesting a ton of berries with creatures that can attack when sprinting. The Quetzal finally received a bit of love and care and has had its base movement speed increased by roughly 15%. I honestly think the Quetzal needs a little more TLC for it to contend with the RG as a cargo hauler, but I know it is used in PvP a lot more, so as the famous saying goes, every little helps. My memory is a little foggy, but I'm pretty certain that mech blueprints were getting abused when Extinction first released, as you could craft up godly mech blueprints with the Tinkering Desk, which of course was unintended, so they completely removed the feature from the game. Well, these have now been re-enabled with this update, which I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy. These can now only be tinkered with mech blueprints, of course. On PvP-enabled servers, all buffs from the Tribe Tower have now been doubled. I guess this is another attempt to force people out of their rat holes and caves, which I don't think is ever going to happen, but at least they're trying. Those benefits would be quite handy if you can somehow figure out a good spot that works. I am terrible at math, but the Tribe Tower already gave 6% increase in element rewards from bosses and capped out at 30% after 150 days. So that would be 12% extra element increase every 30 days, capping out at 60%, which is massive to be honest. The new percentages are visible when looking at the Tribe Tower, so they will make a big difference in the long run. But yeah, good luck to keeping that Tribe Tower up for 150 days, lad. Another change for PvP enabled servers was riders not being able to use weapons when mounted on the Megalania, the Rock Drake, or the Ravager. I do understand the Rock Drake and the Megalania, but I feel like the Ravager got done a little dirty there. Must be because they can ride zip lines, I guess. Well, Wildcard have really been treating us as of late. We've recently been given breedable griffins with the release of Ragnarok, which was a long-time feature that many players have requested for so many years. And out of nowhere, as of last night, they granted us a new wish. We can now breed the Phoenix, another fan favorite mythical beast, so I'm sure they will become favored even more so after this update. We can breed, imprint, and mutate them to make them into a whole different beast. This is such a cool change. They drop fertilized eggs so you can store the babies efficiently. An important thing to note is that any previously tamed phoenixes will be updated as males, so you will have to go out and tame some females to begin your breeding parties. Plus, how cute do the babies look? Oh, so cute. Adding to this, they have made heat waves more common on Scorched Earth, which makes taming them more bearable. Sadly, they still only spawn on Scorched as of now, and as far as I'm aware, they will not be added to other maps. I quite like that though. Gives us more of a reason to visit the scorching heat and sandy dunes of Scorched Earth every so often. I don't need an excuse anyway, because I absolutely love the map. Moving on to the Yi Ling, which also received a nice amount of TLC, with the first feature being Titanoboa venom can now be used as ammunition for poison feathers. Before, you could only use nameless venom for ammo, and of course Titanoboa venom does not have a spoil timer, so it makes this ammo type 100 times more useful and viable. Secondly, now once you force feed your Yi their preferred consumable to equip a certain feather type, it will keep that feather type active for 10 minutes instead of 5, which is what it was before the update. Therefore, doubling the runtime of that type of feather ammo before you have to feed it another. And finally, the Yeeling's tame damage scaling has been increased by approximately 15%. Not a lot, but your Yee can now pack slightly more of a punch after this update. Speaking of creature changes, there has been a number of creatures that have received some big health buffs, and one of these I'm really excited about. So the Mammoth's health scaling has been increased by a whopping 20%, the Bronto's health scaling increased by 10%, and also the Spino's health scaling increased by 10%. So maybe Spino's will come that tiny bit closer in being able to contend with the Rex after all this time, at least from a health perspective, which is where the Spino massively falls short over the Rex. Probably not, but I like to believe it's true. It seems that they do tame up with more health as well. For example, a Mammoth before this update with 45 to 50 plus points into health would probably only have 9k health at best, and now a Mammoth with 45 points into health has over 10k. It really seems to have made a big difference, or maybe it does just scale more when leveling the health. Either way, the Mammoth is one of my favorite creatures in the game, so I cannot wait to tame up some super beefy ones. A few creatures did also receive a few damage buffs too. The Dreadmare's damage scaling has been increased by a whopping 30%, and the Fasola Sucus by 20%. Sadly, my poor boy the Basilisk has been reduced by 20%, so that does make them quite a lot weaker, which I'm a little sad about, not gonna lie. More damage nerfs include the Poison Wyvern and the Dreadnoughtus. The Poison Wyvern having its damage and the Dreadnoughtus having its HP scaling reduced by a whopping 40%, which is a huge change, for better or for worse. Let me know in the comments. I'm not sure about that one. I really like both, but I am a PvE player, so what do I know about balance? The Tesla Coil's Bright mode has been reworked. It will now inflict 99% slow instead of stun, so no more being stunned and dismounted from your beloved creatures when getting struck by lightning. So the Drakelin is basically the most ridiculous and easy way to farm some of the best loot in the game right now. Well, they kinda just made them better with this update. Although they did make tech items a little rarer to find, they have now added tech saddles to the loot table. My loot quality is set to 0.8 times, so I don't know what that's all about, but I'm not really sure how I feel about this creature. I love it, and then when I think twice about it, I instantly hate it. I just love the grind of looting in this game, and there's nothing challenging about finding these horde chests, which quite evidently drop better loot than anything else or any other loot crate in the game. I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comments. Love or hate the Drakelin? I'm still undecided. An absolute game changer here for the builders out there. So when in building mode, for example, if you are placing a certain structure and need to switch to another quickly, instead of equipping that separate building piece from your inventory or hotbar, you can click the ping button when looking at the structure piece to instantly switch to it. That is if you have that specific piece inside your inventory, making building a little bit quicker and easier. Moving on to some Ragnarok new features. Blue gems have been added across Ragnarok. From my experience, you'll find them in the snow biomes. Here's a couple of good spots for them. There's a few clusters dotted around the peaks of this small snow mountain here, located at 46.6 latitude, 33.2 longitude. By far the best spot I've found is in the cave under the frozen lake in the Murder Snow. There's tons dotted throughout this entire cave. The cave entrance is located at 37.7 latitude, 58.9 longitude, and there's one of the many clusters right there near the entrance. Lovely jubbly. So come get your many blue gems here. Fungerwood is now also a thing on Ragnarok. You'll be wanting to look for these types of trees, which are especially common in the swamp regions. You can visit the small swamp below the castle, located at around 20.6 latitude, 40.9 longitude, and there's a few trees here to satisfy your needs. The best spot, of course, is the main swamp region at the west side of the map. These are my coordinates, 40.3 latitude, 16.8 longitude, but there are hundreds of trees in this area, so you won't have trouble finding them. These trees now also yield the aberrant mushrooms, agaravic, and auric, so if you need some of those, this is the way to gather them. Time to start chopping down all those trees. New creature spawns were also added to Ragnarok, the first one being the Rhynia Nafa, which is one I'm not too happy about seeing on the map, but I know there's a lot of players that will be. Found rarely spawning in the swamp on the west side of the map. The Gigantoraptor originally was a map exclusive creature to Ragnarok until Wildcard released it early onto the island and all following maps. The funny thing was it didn't even spawn on Ragnarok at all when it released, while now you can find plenty spawning around these locations. The final creature is the Arkalon, also spotted in the Ragnarok Ragnarok release trailer, but nowhere to be found on the entire map on release day. Well, you'll be more than happy to know that I can find a whopping 100 plus spawning on the Dino Finder all around the ocean. Beautiful. And to close out the video, there are so many more names added to the memorial ruin on Ragnarok. Some might receive some hate for including it here, as this is a personal awesome new feature for me, which I am massively grateful for to Jackson, one of the Ragnarok map developers, where mine and a bunch of my closest content creator friends were included in 2 sections. I cannot express how awesome it is to see my wife's, sisters, and mum's names engraved onto the wall in my favorite map and on my favorite game. It is crazy. My mum would be so proud. It's something I would never ever expect to see in a video game. There wasn't really a better way to say thank you other than including it briefly in this video, where maybe the devs may even watch themselves. I cannot emphasize enough how thankful I am. Anyway, enough soppiness. This is just a little taste of all of the cool new features added, but if you wanted to check out all the bug fixes and patch notes, you can check those out in the pinned comment. That is if YouTube allows me to type it all in there. If not, via the ARK official Discord or in the weekly community crunch that will release this Friday. I will leave links to those in the description of the video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care. Goodbye.